Someone warned me about this one. Welcome back to Speaking with Confidence, the podcast that helps you build the soft skills that lead to real results. Communication, storytelling, public speaking, and showing up with confidence in every conversation that counts. I'm Tim Newman, a recovering college professor turned communication coach, and I'm thrilled to guide you on a journey to becoming a powerful communicator. Here's a moment every manager knows. You're sitting across from someone on your team. You know the next words out of your mouth are going to sting. Your stomach tightens. Your brain starts scrambling for a way to soften the blow. And that's when you reach for the old standby. Positive, negative, positive. A compliment, then the criticism, then another compliment. Or the sandwich method. It's like hiding medicine in peanut butter so that your dog doesn't notice. But here's the problem. Your team isn't a dog, and they see the pill coming from a mile away. And that fake praise you're slathering on top, it doesn't make the medicine go down any easier. It basically just teaches them to distrust every nice thing that you say. Today I'm going to hand you a replacement. It's Tim Elmore's ALAIG framework. 4 steps, no sugarcoating, no hiding. It's just a way to have a hard conversation without burning trust in the process. So let's get into it. Let's be honest where this technique came from. It was designed to make employees better. It was designed to make managers comfortable. Someone, somewhere, decided that criticism needed a cushion. But that math doesn't really work. What actually happens is the praise gets poisoned. Every compliment that follows a sandwich conversation now carries a question mark. Is this genuine? Or is he about to drop something on me? The trust erosion is invisible. You won't see it happen in real time because nobody walks out of your office and says, I now permanently doubt every positive thing that comes out of your mouth. But that's exactly what's happening. Slowly. Conversation by conversation. Compliment by compliment. Until one day you realize your team doesn't believe you anymore when you tell them they did good work. They're just waiting for the other shoe to drop. The sandwich method also creates confusion, not clarity. The employee walks away remembering either only the praise or only the criticism, but rarely both, and almost never the correct action you actually wanted them to take. What sticks is either my boss thinks I'm great or my boss thinks that I'm failing. The middle ground you were aiming for doesn't exist in their memory, and the method fails on every front. It erodes trust, it confuses the message, it protects the manager's feelings at the employee's expense. But there's a better way. Tim Elmore's framework is called the ALAIG framework. The A stands for ask. And this is where most leaders get it completely backwards. When you need to address a problem, your instinct is to open with a statement. Here's what went wrong. Here's what I observed. Here's what needs to change. Don't do that. Open with curiosity instead. Such as, I noticed the report hasn't landed yet. What's the biggest bottleneck you're hitting right now? That question does 2 things immediately. First, it disarms defensiveness. You're not accusing, you're inquiring. The person across from you doesn't have to protect themselves because they haven't been attacked. Second, it surfaces information that you might not have. You might discover the problem is resources, not effort. You might discover the timeline was unrealistic from the start. You might even discover that you're the bottleneck. And if you open with a statement, you'd never have learned any of that. The L stands for listen. And I'll be direct here. We've talked about this. Most leaders are terrible at it. It's not because they don't care, but because they're not actually listening. They're waiting for their turn to talk, and there's a difference. If you're forming your rebuttal while the other person is still speaking, you're not a leader, you're a debater. And debaters don't build teams, they win arguments. You've heard me say this before. Talk like you're correct, but listen like you're wrong. You might be right about the standard that needs to be met, but you might be completely wrong about why it wasn't met. And the only way to find out is to actually hear what's being said. Active listening isn't complicated. It means reflecting back what you heard before you respond. For example, So what I'm hearing is the timeline shifted because marketing didn't deliver assets until Thursday. That single sentence changes the entire temperature of the conversation. They feel heard. You have clarity. And instead of two people defending their positions, you've got two people looking at the same problem from the same side of the table. And that's what A and L do together. You haven't gotten to the hard part yet. All you've done is ask a question and listen to the answer. But you've already done something the sandwich method never will. You've built trust instead of burned it. So you've asked, you've listened, you understand the situation better than you did 3 minutes ago. Now comes the step where the most tough conversations either succeed or implode. E is for empathy. Here's the distinction most managers miss. Empathy is not agreement. For example, I can see why that's frustrating does not mean you're right to be late. It means I'm human enough to acknowledge this situation is hard. Those are different sentences doing different jobs. The first builds a bridge. The second surrenders the standard. Confuse them and you'll either alienate your employee or abandon your expectations entirely. This step is non-negotiable. I watch managers skip it. I watch the consequences. The person across from them checks out, physically still in the room, but mentally gone, because they need to feel heard before they could be guided, and that didn't happen. Everything else you say after that point becomes noise. But here's the other side of it. Empathy without boundaries is just therapy. And you're not their therapist. You're their leader. The goal isn't to make them feel better indefinitely. The goal is acknowledgement that builds a bridge to the next step. That's why the word "and" does so much heavy lifting in this framework. I get why you made that call, and we still need to fix the outcome. The first half validates the person. The second half doesn't validate the problem. Both things can be true at the same time. You can see their side and still hold the line. G is for guide, and guide is where the actual conversation happens. You've asked, you've listened, and you've empathized. Now you need to move them forward towards action. Clear expectations, specific next steps. Talk like you're correct about the standard, but guide them toward it instead of shoving them. Let me give you a real-world example. I had a student who wanted to quit his internship before it even started. He applied in October, was accepted in December to start in May. First week in May, he told me his grandmother was sick, and he was responsible for her care. He needed to resign because he couldn't move, and he wanted to send a 2-line email. Burn the bridge and never look back. And I get it. I understood why. The easy thing would have been to let him vent and send him on his way. Instead, I walked him through this framework. I asked him what he wanted his reputation to be in 5 years. Not what felt satisfying right now, but in 5 years. And he sat with that question longer than I had expected. Then I listened to his frustrations without interrupting. I didn't try to fix anything. Didn't tell him he was wrong. I just let him get it out. Then I empathized. I told him quitting is awkward and uncomfortable, and nobody really teaches you how to do it. That's real. He nodded, and then we got to guide. I helped him write the resignation conversation, specific language, proper timing, genuine gratitude for what the internship would have given him. I told him I would be on the call to help him walk through it. He walked out of that meeting with a reference, an open invitation to come back, and a relationship intact. Not a reputation problem that would follow him into his first real job. And that's the difference between managing discomfort and building character. The sandwich method would have told him, "You're great, but don't quit like that. You're great." And he would have ignored it because it would have felt like a lecture wrapped in a compliment he didn't believe. The ALAIG framework actually changed how he approaches hard conversations. He didn't just leave that internship that he hadn't even started yet better. He left it more capable. And that's what good guidance does. It doesn't just solve today's problem. It equips someone to handle tomorrow's. The sandwich method is a relic. It protects the manager at the employee's expense. It trades clarity for comfort and calls it kindness. The ALAIG framework treats people like adults who can handle the truth, who deserve to be heard, and who are capable of fixing things when someone actually shows them how. So here's your challenge. Next time you need to have a hard conversation, start with a question, not a compliment, not a cushion, a genuine question. Most people won't do this because it's harder than hiding behind fake praise. It actually requires you to be present, to listen, to sit in discomfort without reaching for the easy exit, to be different. Drop the facade. Go have the conversation you've been avoiding. That's all for today. Remember, we're looking for progress, not perfection. Be sure to visit speakingwithconfidencepodcast.com to get your free ebook, The Top 21 Challenges for Public Speakers and How to Overcome Them. You can also register for the Formula for Public Speaking course. Always remember, your voice has the power to change the world. We'll talk to you next time. Take care.